you ready to take your leadership journey to the next level? On the leadership platform TLP, we don't just talk about leadership, we live it. This year, we are bringing you cutting-edge insights, transformative tools, and real-world strategies to help you lead with confidence, purpose, and impact. This year, we have 4 seasons with 50 episodes. We will dive into themes such as leading self, leading others, and leading institutions. We bring you Leaders Are Leaders. This monthly session focuses on book reviews, discussions, encouraging all participants to read along with selected books on personal leadership and professional leadership. We also have a time with the CEO. In this segment, we dive into the stories of prominent CEOs who share their insights, lessons learned throughout their leadership journey. We also bring you extraordinary leadership stories, highlighting individuals in our societies who are doing extraordinary things. This segment inspires viewers with real-life examples of leadership in action. We will bring you some brilliant minds, courageous leaders changing the narrative of Africa. We also bring you finally the expert-led sessions, which cover a wide range of leadership and personal development topics, providing practical guidance and actionable strategies for personal and professional development. The leadership platform is your go-to space for personal growth, professional breakthroughs, and meaningful connections. I am Joy Bonsu Schmutz, co-host on TLP, and I will see you every Saturday, 7 p.m. GMT, live on YouTube and Facebook. Hello. Good evening and welcome to the Leadership Platform powered by CTL Africa Leadership. Wherever you're joining from across the world, we are so excited to have you for another episode. Thank you for joining us, and we encourage you go into the comment section and introduce yourself. Tell us where you are connecting from. We know we have audience from Malawi, Nigeria, France, all over the world joining us today. So please be generous with your comments. Let's know you're watching us live. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on LinkedIn. And finally, as we always say, you know somebody in your network that will benefit from this conversation. So please share the stream so that a lot of people can benefit. All right, so I'm seeing some comments come in. Yes, please tell us where you are connecting from. Her Ladyship Cynthia Martison, as always, is joining us right here on the Leadership Platform. And a very good evening from the team, Sarah Jessie, from Uncle Sam, Akofa. We all wish you a wonderful evening. And gather around the table as we learn and take our leadership, to the next level. And tonight is a very special one because we're going to talk about Gen Zs, leaders, CEOs, directors, HR. You need to be in this conversation because today, a majority of our workforce is going to be filled with even millennials where we are passing away. But the Gen Zs are taking over. And so we have an expert, somebody who has immersed herself in this space. She is the founder. I'm going to introduce her soon, but then I just want to warm up the space a little bit for all those joining us. Just keep coming, share the stream, and let's have an engaging time tonight. My name is Joy Bonsu Schmutz, as always, your co-host for the Leadership Platform. Well, so our speaker, who is going to do justice to the topic, navigating the competence crisis and managing modern Gen Z, I knew Odamea a couple of years ago from LinkedIn when she launched her first book. And I invited her to come and speak to the She Rock women about how to position yourself on LinkedIn to be effective, to get opportunities, and all of that. And she did justice to it. One of the things that stands out in Odamea's bio, if you read it when this program was advertised, was that she has a very interesting mind. She started off as a pharmacist and now she is a lawyer in the making. CTO, we have another lawyer. Yay, yay. We have another lawyer in the house. So, yes, she's going to tell us all about herself. She has a very lengthy bio, but just a little bit about her is that she's a seven-time author. She amazing seven-time author. She's beating some records already on this platform, but I'd like to bring her on so we can have a little conversation before she takes us into her presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, some emojis in the comments, some shout outs in the comment. Let's welcome Odamea Amoako to the platform, the leadership platform. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah, you
much
see the
for
hype,
the introduction.
the hype.
Yeah.
I've gone overboard because this is a Gen Z conversation. So I'm
Yeah.
bringing in all my energy into the session. But Adamia,
Right.
as we set the stage for this very important conversation, they are leaders, they are CEOs, they are founders who connect from across the world, and the Gen Zs. We are all here. We are all in this
Right.
space. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, what is not? First, tell us what you do, and then you tell
Okay.
us what is not on your CV.
Okay. So currently I work in advertising as a digital account manager. So professionally, that's what I do. Um, and what that means basically is I'm sort of like a client service executive. So I am the liaison between the agency and the brand. So I ensure that what the brand is looking for is what I'm communicating to the team. And then once the
Right.
team is done, I share it with the client. So that's basically what I do professionally. Aside that, I just finished my law degree. I'm graduating in a few months' time. And I studied for a first degree in pharmacy, a Bachelor of Pharmacy's degree in Central University. I finished in 2018. So I think as I go on with the conversation, I'll talk a bit about my journey, and that
Right.
would also help for leaders, and I mean even younger people listening to us, to understand how to pivot well and even to understand how they can become better in whichever spaces they find themselves. What is not on my CV? I like to dance a lot. I dance. I enjoy dancing. When I was a child, I used to do a lot of choreography. So I'm someone that likes to dance.
Tell
Uh,
me about that.
I dance and
Yeah.
I like music. I
Yeah.
love music a lot. I actually learn with music. I know it's very,
Mhm.
sometimes when I say it, it feels very weird, but I can actually study with loud music. And I mean, I did that and I've been able to finish my 4 year degree. So it means it works for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm so excited about this opportunity to share my
Yeah.
thoughts, and especially on the back of the Gen Z conference, which we just ended on 4th July.
Yeah.
It was an idea I had last year, and it just dawned on me that I have to just do it. And I'm an executionist person. Like once I have
Yep.
the idea and I realize I have the resources and I understand what I want to do, I just go on with it. So I had a conference. We had a number of people who came in to have conversations about Gen Zs, and we had the older generation as well in the room to sort of balance
Yeah.
the conversation. So it
Yeah.
was such an insightful space. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I made sure I did was to link it to the my seventh book, which is This Is Not
Mhm.
Advice. where I talk about my transition from pharmacy to law
Yeah.
and what happened in between it. Because sometimes people see that I say I finished my law degree and it sounds like it's been like a walk in the park. So it's
Yeah.
it's a book where I talk about my observations
Don't
from
worry,
that transition.
I'll give you time to expand and tell us all
Yeah,
about. This is not advice. I cannot wait. You've written 7 books.
yeah.
What I want to ask you before I leave the stage for you is you're the founder of Generation Shift Africa.
Hmm. Yeah.
Generation Shift. Tell me about that. And the name sounds
Okay.
very interesting. So tell me about how it started and what it is about. Yeah.
Okay. So as a Christian, I like to do things based on inspiration. When I pray, what's the next step for me? So in 2023, I wanted to start a podcast, and that's because I had had different conversations. I had been invited to different spaces, and
Yeah.
I realized that I wasn't able to flesh out the things I had in my mind to share. So I decided I would want to have a podcast where I would expand on some of these topics so that I'd be able to reach a lot more young people. So I created a podcast, actually. It's on Spotify, but I never posted there because I never had the time to record
Yeah.
and edit and all of that. So I put it aside. So last year, when I was launching my next 3 books, which are on branding, I just decided that because I was launching my books, why not launch Generation Shift as an initiative, get it
Right.
registered, and then I can start with projects and programs. So Generation Shift basically is like a Pan African initiative. So we are hoping to redefine what leadership is for young people. We've had different examples of what leadership is. We see
Yeah.
leadership in different spaces, and
Yeah.
we want to build the capacity of young people. I mean, statistically, the continent in 2030 would have like more than 50% of the population being young people. So what
Yeah.
that means is if we do not invest in building the capacity of young people, we would have a lot of people not having any capacity to do anything, and then we would keep complaining about the crop of leaders we are getting. But the problem is not about the young people, but then there isn't any opportunity to build them. So that's what we do at Generation Shift. We've currently run one fellowship program called Afrivans. We finished our first cohort last year. We
Right.
had people from about 10 African countries joining. And then
Right.
we started the second cohort about a month ago.
Yeah.
And we reached, I think, we have about 15 countries represented in the second cohort. So putting that
Fantastic.
together, we've reached about 22 African countries.
Right.
Aside that, we had something we call Let's Talk Africa. So Let's Talk
Mm-hmm.
Africa was a space where we invite young people from different African countries to talk about what they are doing, especially as a young person, just to
Mm-hmm.
inspire other young people that this is what is possible if you are diligent, you're consistent. So we
Right.
had about 3 episodes. We had one lady from South Africa, we had someone from Eswatini, and myself. So we did like 3 sessions, and for that too, we
Okay.
reached about 10 African countries joined Let's Talk Africa for all the 3. And then the
Mm.
Gen Z conference, which we just had. So that's like
Yeah.
our third initiative. So we are hoping to roll out more initiatives, all looking at
Yeah.
building the capacity of young people. So that's basically about it. And it's just not
Sounds.
necessarily for Africans in Africa, but then
Yeah.
Africans from different, maybe they are in other countries, but then
Yeah.
being part of the movement to build the continent. Yeah.
Sounds very exciting. And you are in very good company where you said you're an executionist because your match is on the course, Sarah Jesse, the executionist
Yeah.
extraordinaire. You are in such good company, and we are so happy to have you. I think on behalf
Yeah.
of Uncle Sam and the whole team, thank you for honoring our invitation. And I hope our audience are ready to listen to what you have to share with us. So I'll leave the space for you. Please take us away.
Thank you very much. So good evening again to everyone joining. My name is Odamea Amoako, as stated earlier. So we are having this conversation on the back of the Gen Z conference to just have conversations about young people and helping them to move from being performative to being people that execute, and then people that are very interested in progress and growth. And most of the time when I start to talk about young people, there is the conversation about, well, there are young people that are not doing well. I mean, I get a lot of should I call them complaints from people that say that they've worked with young people and they don't see as much growth in them. And I like to use myself as example to show what is possible in younger people, so that leaders in different spaces would give young people the opportunity to ensure that they are building capacity, and also ensure that they are getting into the space where they'll be able to grow professionally and in terms of their personal development. So I'm currently taking my 57th course. I actually finished my 56th course yesterday. So I've taken 55 online courses, all for free, in different spaces. And what that means is that I understand that there is a gap in terms of education and execution. And for me to be able to achieve that, I need to build my understanding and my knowledge so that I'll be able to understand how to make good use of, different platforms. So I've taken courses in marketing, in AI, in psychology. As a law student, I've taken courses in common law, in social justice, a couple of other spaces. And as stated earlier, I studied for a degree in pharmacy. I just finished my degree in law at Mount Crest, and I am waiting to enter into the School of Law to become a lawyer soon. Aside that, I mostly when I talk about my journey, it sounds as though I'm a very old person. So I like to mention my age just to make a case for Gen Zs. So I turned 29 in June, and I've written 7 books. So I have books in branding, in writing, in goal setting, in time management. I have been able to translate my capacity and the understanding I have into books, because I understand that it is not every time that you get the opportunity to meet people. But if I'm able to put my thought in writing, it would reach more people. And that's why I write. And we already talked about Generation Shift Africa, so I wouldn't go so much into that. When Joy reached out to me that she wanted to have a conversation concerning young people and Gen Zs, and also because I had had the conference, I started to think about some of the challenges and some of the core conflicts we see in our current dispensation, which has to do with Gen Zs and the older generation. And the first thing, and I use LinkedIn as an example, but I would broaden it a bit in terms of the digital space. So when COVID happened, we realized that we had a shift in how things work. So now we do not have a space where everything you do is about the paper CV you have, or the document you present to a hiring manager or somebody you want to work with. But now people are able to hire from LinkedIn, I've actually gotten a job opportunity from Facebook before. So right now people actually reach out to people regardless of where they find them to share with them what they need to do. And because of that, it has created an illusion for some young people within the space that because the online space is very curated. So you go to Instagram, for instance, you see a video of let's say an influencer that went to a space to talk. They wouldn't post the part where they almost fail. They wouldn't post the part where maybe they had a wardrobe malfunction. They wouldn't post the parts which are not glamorous. So mostly as young people, because we are more or less on our phones, we see the glamorous bit of people's processes, and we think that that is how life is supposed to be. So it makes it very difficult for younger people to understand that, I need to put in some work. It's like you go on Instagram and you see a video, and like let's say a 2 minute video, and everything you see, like a very nice angle, some well ironed bed sheets, like everything looks very nice, very classy. So it gives you the impression that everything is flawless. And that's one of the things that has been in terms of the younger generation, and we looking at things from the flawless point of view and not looking at how to build our capacity. And sometimes too, we've had people, because there's AI now, people can just go online and just type something, and then you see a very nice post online where they've given buzzwords and all of that, but the skill is not there. right? And then there is the space of people just taking courses. So I have a training program that I run, which I'll be talking about at the latter end, where I train people in how to find online courses, where to find them, and even how to stay consistent. And there are times that when I reach out to people and I'm sharing these thoughts with them, it's like people are more focused on the certificates and not the skill they are building. So it's like people look good on paper. You see a CV and it's like, wow, this is like a great somebody that can contribute to my team. And then you break them and it's like there's nothing to show for it. So that is the illusion that we currently have in terms of our current dispensation for the younger generation. However, there is the part where we need to also look at it from the point that we have been blessed with a lot. We've been blessed with so much. We now can, when I was working on my PowerPoint, I mostly use Canva, but I realized that I had to do a lot of designing here and there, and I had a session around 3 4 p.m. So when I finished, I was like, let me just put this in notebook, and then it just pulled out what I had done in Canva as the raw document, and then it just refined it for me, right? So what it means is that we have access to a lot of tools and information, which can ensure that we do not present document that have errors. We do not do things in terms of ambiguity. We do not do things which has to look like we are making mistakes, right? So we get to the point where we need to apply what we've learned. And that is one of the things that I sometimes, when we're having the Gen Z conference, I was telling one of the industry leaders that sometimes I wouldn't blame young people sometimes, because they would present a nice document to you, and then we do not look beyond that paper. We do not let them apply what they are showing us. So sometimes you would recruit somebody and then you realize that I was expecting this person to contribute so much. I was expecting this person to do certain things, but they are unable to do it, even though their CV says they are good with Microsoft. Right. So we need to get to the space where we are not just looking at what is on the paper, but then looking at what people are also contributing to the space we are putting them in. And then I had there was a podcast I shot a few months ago where I talked about the fact that when we talk about amplification in terms of online visibility, it is you amplifying the substance you have. So if you have zero substance, you are amplifying zero. It's like you multiplying 100 by zero, it is still zero. If you multiply 1,000 by zero, it's still zero. So what it means is that we are building a generation where people have visibility without substance, and it is what is making the that's what is causing the conflict. Basically, it's making older people look at us like they will see your CV, it looks so good, and then now they hire you and they realize there's nothing to show for it. So that was the reason why I wrote my book. I think I have a copy around here. So this is not advice, which I'll talk about in the end. So because I had been in spaces, and as I mentioned initially, I have had opportunity to reach young people in more than 20 African countries. And there are times where I speak to them and I realize that every young person is looking for a faster way to get something. It's like you see that maybe Odamea has posted that she just finished her law degree, and people will see it and think that, oh, it's very easy. Odamea is a DB. I mean, if you don't understand what DB is that about? It's like you're someone that your parents have a lot of money and they have given you a lot of money. So you're living an easy life. But just to let you know, I paid my law fees from first year to final year. I was working and schooling. So sometimes I tell people that soft life isn't the destination. Soft life is sort of a place you get to when you've put in the work, right? So there's currently a lot of information going on online about 9 to 5 is a scam, don't work in a company, follow your passion. I mean, just get the degree, bag the degree, protect your peace. Soft life is the goal. I think at Gen Z conference, somebody mentioned that, I mean, it's better to cry in Santorini than to cry in Choco, and a whole lot of things, right? What that is doing to our generation, and also for the older generation to understand this, there has been the extension of we being very performative in what we do. So now people are not looking at execution, right? People are looking at just hobbies. People are looking at content creation. Like I mean, then I personally, I'm always taking videos, I'm taking pictures and all of that. But I only do that from a place of execution. I take pictures when I know I have achieved something, right? So there is the space where young people understand that we are trying to follow our passion, but the document gets us into the room. And I mostly tell some older people that sometimes come when I was working on the book, and then I shared it with a few senior people in the advertising space and some other industries. They were telling me that, well, we hire people, we look at their CV, and they come and they are not pushing or putting in their weight, right? What that is because the certificate alone is not what would show that this young person has the capacity to do the work, right? There is the place of competence which we have not really paid attention to. And I've been helping a few friends to get some jobs, and sometimes you would hear, well, the CV is not solid enough, and then I have to like go an extra mile to say that, well, ma'am, I think that you can hire this person because they have the qualities, they have the attitude to be in this space. If you decide that you're just following the certificates, the what they have on paper, it would end in a space where you would feel like every young person is just there for the vibes. That's a Gen Z term anyway. Like for cruise, like we're catching cruise, we just want to be there and take the pictures. I have a nice office, but then the competence is what would keep us there, right? And there's a part where I highlighted in my book about rest. And sometimes we have built a certain mindset where people are always looking for rest when they've done something very little. It's like once let's say I write one page, it's like I've done something. So let me sleep and wake up later and continue, right? But rest is something that you earn. When we look at the Bible, when we read the story of creation, we realize that God only rested after he realized what he had done was good. So what that means is that as people who are created after God's likeness, right? We need to understand that rest is earned. Rest is not something you get by creating heaven and earth and you rest. God rested after he realized that he had created all the things that were necessary for the environment to thrive. And that's on the back of soft life being built on what you've been able to do. What capacity have you built? Currently there are times that I find it easy to pick an Uber because I mean when I was in first year law school, I used to walk from Osu to Kanda. So I lived around where police headquarters was. So I wake up very early in the morning. I start working from my hostel, and then I move towards the police headquarters. I cross the road, then I start walking towards Circle. Once I get to Mobile, I just take a right turn, and it's so visible. Like as I'm saying it, I can imagine it like I'm walking on that stretch, and then I'll get to class. But now I've earned it so much that I'm able to pick an Uber because I know that, I mean, now I'm earning as much to give me that luxury. But there is the space where young people are looking for soft life when they haven't built capacity. And that is because of the career advice that is going online. I currently listen to a podcast where somebody was talking about the fact that as a young person, there are easy ways to get money online, and I don't dispute that at all. But what that is doing is it is making a lot of people feel like let me just create content and earn it, when that is not the only way to make it. And even in terms of that, people that mostly get a lot of money through content creation, they have to build some skills to be able to hold on to what they've earned. So I realized that there are people that would start maybe doing some content on TikTok and all of that. They start getting brand deals, but now they have to learn marketing. Now they have to learn how to brand themselves. Now they have to learn how to do all of those things. So what it means is that it's not just about you showing yourself online. It's not just about you having a tripod, you having the ring light to show that, I mean, I have a nice room, but it is about you also building capacity. And this I actually put a slide here, especially because Joy had mentioned to me that the people that mostly join this conversation are industry leaders, people that hire people, managers that are picking people. And honestly speaking, one of the reasons why I also wrote this book is because I realized that there are certain things that the older generation doesn't look at, because it's as though they think that, oh, once this person has been able to show that this is how I am and this is what I can do, they just take it hook, line, and sinker without really looking through the cracks and asking the right questions and not looking beyond the aesthetics, right? So the first is that there are a lot of young people currently that cannot really execute without having someone to hold their hands. And even though sometimes it may feel very tiring, because you look at it from the point of you've hired somebody to do a job, to be maybe an account executive or to help you with copywriting or program management, and you look at it from the point that you do not want to hold your hands every single time. But young people sometimes, because of the space we how we've been um conditioned, we look at things from show me what to do so I do it, right? So it's more like we waiting for instructions rather than thinking through the problem, right? And that is where it makes it hard for the older generation to look at us and feel like, but you said you can manage programs, but you said you can do this. And it needs to be that there is that level of training. And I think at the conference we talked about this so much that we need to get to the space where there is a lot of training. Even though there are young people that sometimes feel like they know so much, they know a lot, so they are not ready to listen, there are still some people who are interested in building themselves. There are young people who want to grow. So if we have that space where people are being trained, are given some capacity building and opportunities, it would help to reduce the space where we look at young people as people that can't execute. The second is about the fact that we have been educated in a way that sometimes we only learn to pass our exams. So, because of that, we have information, but we do not know how to use it. And the corporate world is not a space that rewards you having information without being able to use it. And because of that, it's made managers feel like, I've hired you to do this job. You came in with the first class, but you cannot even use Microsoft Excel, for instance. And that is because the way we have been educated is like we have been loaded with a lot. So we need to get the opportunity where we can have the space to make good use of what we've learned, to practice. And that's why at the conference, we're talking about the fact that we need to I mean, not necessarily make it compulsory, but there are certain schools that I know they make internships, for instance, compulsory. And I feel like it's something that we need to do so that people are not just going through a 4-year degree without knowing anything. And then there are people that also have that sort of they feel that they cannot really amplify what they have in their minds, right? So they cannot speak, they cannot articulate their value in the room. And sometimes these are the people that if managers actually pick up and ensure that they are supporting them in the right environment, you see that they will start to do amazing things. But sometimes we look at the brand, the CV, the LinkedIn profile, we hire people, and then now they get into the room, they can articulate, but they have no substance, right? But there are people that also have the substance, but do not know how to articulate it. And we need to get to the space where we have the older generation understanding that we have two different people in our current space, and we need to ensure that we are giving both of them opportunity so that it doesn't feel like, I mean, there are times that I hear people say that mostly I get older people tell me I don't look Gen Z because of how I do my things. And I tell them that, well, I am, and I've been able to do these things, and I have examples of my friends who have been able to do that. So sometimes we need to look beyond the aesthetic. We need to look beyond the brand. I teach branding. I wouldn't say that branding is bad. However, branding needs to go with substance. So that's something I'd want us to pay attention to. So one of the things that I do, and I'm going to now delve into my book and how leaders in different industries can actually ensure that they are getting the best out of the younger generation, and ensuring that they have young people in their spaces who are actually executing and not just having the theory aspect of it. So, as I stated earlier, I'm just going to talk about my transition from law to pharmacy to make the point on this slide, and then after that, I'll go to the book. So I finished my pharmacy degree in 2018 in Central University. I did my national service in Ifiankwanta Regional Hospital. So when I finished, during national service, actually, I realized that I didn't want to be in health at all. Like I just thought about it. I prayed about it. I did a lot of assessments. By the grace of God, I was part of the Central Leadership Program, which is an ICGC initiative to raise Christ-centered transformational leaders. So it was a space where we were taught about self-awareness. So I learned about it. I started to analyze my personality, analyze who I am, why Odamea did certain things the way she did them. So as I thought through them, I realized that I can be in the health space, but it will shrink me. And that was when I came back to Accra. When I came, for me, COVID was a blessing. So, to the glory of God, COVID happened and I didn't have to go to look for a job, and I had the opportunity to take courses online. So, if you just joined us, I mentioned in the beginning that I'm currently taking my number 57 online certification. So I have certifications in marketing, in branding, in law, in AI, in digital transformation, psychology. I've taken courses in a lot of things. My current the 56th course was in corruption, anti-corruption and ethics. So I've taken different courses, right? So between the time I came back from Takrade to Accra and the time I got my first remote job, I was just learning online. And I wasn't doing this just from the place of looking for a course and taking without understanding what they were teaching. So I was very intentional about understanding the course material, very intentional about learning what they were teaching, and then ensuring that I was practicing it. So on my Facebook, for instance, I've created different pages where I was using to test some of the things I was learning from the social media marketing courses I took. So this was 2020. So by the end of 2020, I had gotten my first remote job. So I started working from home. I was getting some money for my data. And then as that went on, I started to do some other courses to beef up what I had, because my CV then was full of pharmacy experiences. Every vacation I did internships. I After the internships, I had done national service. Aside that, I had been the head of the pharmacy choir. I had been in the pharmacy electoral commission. I had been in the SRC letter. So everything in my CV was more tailored towards pharmacy. So I realized that I needed to do more to push, for lack of a better word, to push off the pharmacy experiences so that I can have something in the space which I want to enter into. So now, when I started the first role, I started pitching myself to people on LinkedIn. So I don't know, maybe somebody will be listening here that I pitched myself to in the past, but I'll just enter your DM, a very nice introduction, and there was no AI then. So of course, I had to draft everything from my head. So I would DM and I'd say, "Hi, my name is Odamea Amoako. I have taken ABCD course, and I realize you manage so and so company, and I want to help you with your social media management. I want to volunteer." So I started working for free. So I worked for free for close to a year. And then in 2021, around April, May, I got my first properly paid job as a communications assistant for another remote company, which it was an FCMG, so they mostly export consumables to Europe. So I was helping with their websites, with design, so I can design. I know how to manage websites. I know how to manage social media pages. I can write. Like I was basically like a whole department as a person. And what I'm trying to say with this part of the story is that there are times that you need to have honest reflection about where you are and know that you need to build capacity. Because there are times that there are young people that will feel like I want to enter into a space, and because they feel like they've seen maybe Odamea say that now I'm able to pick Uber freely, so they feel like Odamea just got up and she started picking Uber. There was a place where I had to learn. So there is the learning space, the learning stage, sorry, and the earning stage. There's a stage where you learn, and you need to put yourself in a space that you understand that I am not now in the capacity to earn from what I am learning. Now is the time to learn. So after that first job, it gave me some energy because now I had been able to land a proper job. So I worked with them for over a year, and then I started working for an engineering company. I've worked with about three fintechs. I've worked with a school. I've worked with a law firm. I've worked with some consultancies. I've worked in different spaces. I've worked in the nonprofit space, a multinational nonprofit. So I have done all of that to ensure that I am not just using academic theory, but I am ensuring there is corporate execution. And that is something that I realized that the older generation now doesn't even have as much time to do that. So currently, one of the things that I've been very intentional about doing for the past 2 years is to do a lot of training. So I do trainings in writing, in marketing, in branding, in time management, because as I speak, I'm sure somebody might be wondering how I'm able to do all the things I'm saying. And honestly, for I wrote 6 books as part of my law degree. So the 7 books I've written, I wrote 6 out of 7 in law school. Aside that, I was working because I had to pay my fees. So I was working full-time jobs, going to class, learning. By the grace of God, I believe I'll be graduating with a second class upper. I didn't fail any of my courses. So there are times that people ask me how I manage my time. So I teach time management, I teach goal setting, and all of these things are trainings that I believe the younger generation needs, because we sometimes would have the whole complaint about young people not doing much, and we are all lazy and all of that. And that is because some people like us went through the hard way to build our capacity. There are some that have been exposed to certain spaces that they just have to work and learn as they go. And what I have been trying to do is to bridge that gap, where I help to transform young people to understand how the corporate space works. I mean, I was telling one of my friends that because of free SHS and the fact that now there are lots of universities who have expanded, universities now take more students, we have a lot of graduates who do not understand the corporate world. So there needs to be a certain bridge that would help younger people to, I mean, understand how to make good use of whichever space they find themselves in. And one of the answers to this, in terms of how I can contribute to it is why I wrote this book. So this is not advice, as I mentioned earlier. Is a book where I talk about my transition from pharmacy to law. So the story I've told you, I've expanded on it. I've talked about how I even ended up as a science student, because I'm sure some of you may be wondering that I like to talk. So how did I do science? It's all in the book. I talk about how I was a science student, how I ended up as a pharmacy student, how I transitioned, some of the things I had to do, how I paid my law school fees. I've talked about all of these things, and then I have 10 core observations. And these observations are basically like lessons I have learned from my transition. So there's a part where I talk about the timeline trap. So there are people that feel like, oh, if I'm 25 and I don't have a certain amount of money in my account, I have failed. There are some that also feel they are 30 and they are now trying to figure life out and they feel like they have failed. There are people that, and these timelines were not necessarily handed over to us directly, but these are timelines that society and I mean how we see things have made it look like. And what has even made it worse is the digital space, the fact that we have social media and we see very young people. Just recently, we saw I Show Speed, who came to Ghana, and we saw the numbers he was getting and the brand deals he's been able to reach and how much he's earning. And we look at those exceptions to make decisions in terms of our personal lives. So there's a part where I talk about that. There's a part where I talk about the Midnight University. I'm sure that I don't know, but I'm sure you can see I have some eye bags. I am more like a night person. So what I do a lot during the night is taking online courses. I'm always learning something. I'm always reading something. And there are times that I meet young people who will say that, the data is expensive, internet is not stable. When I get back from work, I'm so tired. But these are the same people that will watch a whole Netflix series from start to finish. I mean, they can sit by their TVs or their laptop or their phone or probably an iPad from like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning watching a series. But then these same people would complain that they are not getting, they don't know how to take online courses. And that is because not necessarily because you lack a motivation problem, it's because your priorities are not in the right place. So I talk about how you can leverage online spaces, how you can make good use of your night time. I mean, even if you are sitting in a trolley, you are sitting in a public transport to the house, that's the time you can read something, you can read an article, you can do something, right? Aside that, I talk about the politics of presence. So I had the chance to work in a multinational nonprofit where I had to interface certain industry leaders, people in like the UNFPA and all of that. And there were times that I'll go for meetings, and then when I'm done, and they realize that you're a very young person, but you don't behave like your peers. You've dressed very well, you look very good, and then I'll just tell them that, I mean, I learned the hard way. And I realized a lot of young people do not have that understanding. So people appear in places because they just have to be there, but they don't understand how to be present in a space, how to look the part, right? As you're building the substance, you need to also look the part in terms of what you want people to see about you. So the 10 observations in the book basically talks about certain misconceptions we have. There's a part where I'm talking about uh, making sure that you know how to write in terms of communicating your goal. And that was in the previous slide where I talked about there are certain young people that struggle to share their thoughts, right? How to communicate their value. So I talk about how to go about that, how to build your capacity in a sense that you'll be able to communicate your value so much that you would get opportunities in whichever space you find yourself. So that is what this book talks about. I posted on my status yesterday that, like, this is my first book that I feel I've really poured my heart into, because I realized that through some of the trainings and the programs I've done, I meet young people that struggle with some of these things, not necessarily because somebody nobody has held their hand, right? Nobody has told them this is how it is done. Nobody has shared with them how they can become better in whichever space they find themselves, right? And that is one of the things that I look at. So there's the timeline trap, which I've talked about, that you're not behind, you're not ahead, you're just right on time. And as a Christian, we understand in Ecclesiastes that, I mean, there's time for everything. Everything has its time and season. So whichever place you find yourself, if you realize that you feel behind at the age you are, the right time to start is now. The soft life scam, which I've talked about, where people look at soft life as like the destination. It's like, I want to arrive here, and regardless of what I do, all I want is soft life. But if you look for comfort before you build capacity, it is like you saying that, I don't want to do the work, I just want to reach there, right? And then I talked about the West Copton reality, where you write to build, you are able to communicate your value. And then technical equity, which I mentioned that amplifying zero is zero. You cannot say that you're a young person, you are building visibility. There are people that now invest so much in branding. They would go and take nice pictures in their suits, and then all they do is to take a very nice picture and they'll go on LinkedIn. I'm excited to share that. We see so much of that without capacity, and that is zero. Amplifying itself is still zero, right? So some of the things that I do, which I just would want to share as I end, so that if there are questions from Joy or the audience, um as I mentioned in the beginning, there are certain trainings and programs I've been doing for young people, where maybe you have a group of young people in your company, in your institution, which you've realized that they fall short in some of the things that I've mentioned. These are things that I personally do to help young people to build themselves, because we cannot always complain about the capacity problem in young people. We need to build spaces where we can help them to grow. So there's the first where I teach writing. As somebody who has written 7 books, I started writing before AI became what it is now. I started writing in 2022, so I understand the basics of writing, the element of writing, what makes a good writing, what makes what is clarity in terms of writing, right? So that's one thing that I do, and I have a book called From Cricket to Viral, where I talk about writing. I have a book called The Writing Playbook, where I talk about how to write the anatomy of a good post, the anatomy of a good write-up, right? Because I know there probably are some senior leaders here who are listening that will tell their assistant to probably draft a report, and then they'll write something for you and you're just wondering, hey, it's like it looks like you need to teach them how to write from scratch, right? So that's one thing that I do. I teach how to speak publicly and pitching under pressure. I'm that person that regardless of where I find myself, I'm able to speak, I'm able to communicate my value, I'm able to talk in terms of whichever area you give me to speak about, right? And then the smart study code is about the online learning. So I mentioned earlier that I'm currently taking my 57th online course, and I've never paid for any of the online courses I've taken. And all of these are courses that are certified by I've taken courses by University of London, the Land University, University in San Francisco. I've taken courses with the Digital Frontiers Institute in South Africa. I've taken courses with the Change the Game Academy. I've taken courses in different places, and all of these platforms were free. So I mostly do trainings where I teach people how to take online courses, where to find them, and even how to stay consistent. Because taking courses online is not a walk in the park. And I like to teach people how to do this so that they build immediate leverage. There are things that I've learned from online courses that people probably will have to go and sit in a full 4-year degree to study. But have been able to crack the code in terms of studying online and building myself. And I just want to share about where I work currently. So I work in a space where we manage one of the big companies in Ghana. And I got this job because I took courses in digital finance. And I'm sure somebody is like, hey, one girl, you've done law, you studied pharmacy, you're talking about marketing. Now you're coming to talk about digital finance. Yes. So somewhere in 2024, the latter part, a link was shared with me to apply for funding for an online course where we'll be taught digital finance. So I just took it upon myself to apply and then see how what would I would get out of it. And that was also because I'm just open to learning. So I signed up. I got more than, I think, over $4,000 scholarship to take 5 courses in digital finance. So when I finished the program, one of the program managers took a liking of me because she had realized that I mean Odamea is somebody that is doing so well. She had gone to see what I'm doing on LinkedIn, and I mean she just realized that I'm somebody that is an open-minded person and I'm always looking to learn. So she asked me to share my CV with her and that she wanted to recommend me for a role. So I was there. I got called for an account manager interview in an advertising agency. And this is me who doesn't have a background in marketing, in comms, in brand strategy, nothing. The only thing that opened that door for me was my digital finance certifications, which I took online. So what that means is that I understand how great it is to make good use of the online space and how to find courses to actually build your capacity for you to be able to progress career wise. And currently, I got a job in December. I've been working there for over 6 months, and I mean, I've been given a bit more responsibility because I'm delivering on my task. And that is me working in an advertising agency without an advertising or marketing background. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, I also teach personal branding and I mean how to build a good online presence. And most of the time, when I do some of these trainings, I ask people to Google me. And I mean, some of us can do that probably after this session. You can just go to Google and type my name, Odamea Amoako, and I'm sure that you would find a lot of information about me. So what I do is I teach people personal branding. I teach people how to have a good digital footprint, how to use search engine optimization to position yourself very well online. So I do that as well. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, you realize that I've been able to build my career swiftly in about 4 years. I've moved from different industries. I've been able to build my capacity so much that I am currently working in a space that I don't have a degree for. So I also help people who are in non-linear paths. There are people that are have degrees that they do not necessarily want to use, but they don't know how to pivot, they don't know how to move. So I mostly teach people how to do that as well. So these are things that Odamea does to ensure that we are building capacity for younger people. And what that means is that every senior person cannot necessarily mentor every fresh hire individually, right? So one of the things that I decided to do after the Gen Z conference was to give opportunity to the senior leaders, to mentors, to people that are in higher positions who see the problem I'm talking about, to actually help give certain people opportunity to have this book, to have some of these trainings, to make sure that they are getting free access to some of these materials so that they can build themselves. And that is something that I'm hoping that, I've started to talk to other people about it and how they can support, how they can be a part of this movement, because I realize that there are younger people who are very eager to learn. There are younger people who came for the event that wanted to get the book, but they were like, okay, well, I don't think I'm currently in the position to buy a book yet. So I just looked at it from the point of giving the older people the opportunity. And I've had a couple of people who have pledged and have actually contributed to that. In some weeks' time, I'll start to put out a couple of initiatives and some master classes where people will have free seats to actually join so that they can learn from my experience and also to ensure that they do not make the mistake that I made. So these are things that I have just put here so you can decide that you're supporting the movement to build the Gen Z, the generation of young people, to ensure that they have access to these trainings I've talked about, to have access to the books that I've written, and to ensure that they are making good use of the online space, and the online platform, to ensure that they are building themselves. And the previous slide that I mentioned, what we are looking at is to get them a physical copy of This Is Not Advice. So every person that signs up for the scholarship, which we'll put out under Generation Shift Africa, would have a free physical copy of This Is Not Advice. They will have slots on all the trainings that I do so that they would learn how to position themselves, how to communicate their value, and the individuals or institutions that also support us in this way would also get mentions in our impact report. So we would mention that maybe Odamea sponsored 10 people, this lady sponsored this number of people, and the end goal of it is we want to build a generation that is ready to execute. We want to build a generation that is looking at execution and not just showing up online and showing up at events just for showing up sake. But we want to build a generation of young people that understand that execution is as important as performance. And this I will just leave this here for a while. I'm actually done. This is the end of my slide. I'll just hand back over to Joy. If there's anything that would want to share, want to talk about, we can. If there are questions that people would want to find out from me, I would also be very interested in that. So what I'm just hoping to achieve is that in the end, we've built a generation that understands execution, a generation that understands that we need to ensure that we have the access to opportunities and also have access to trainings. So thank you very much. And I hope that there are questions which I would be able to answer. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, wow. You don't talk your age. Let me add that one to it. Congratulations. That was very, very good
Thank
content,
you. Thank you
and,
very
and
much.
sharing with us your experience. This is not textbook. This is your lived experience. So while I give you like a minute to cool down, take some water, I'll just encourage our audience. Odamia is here to take your questions. I'll also bring Sarah on stage shortly so we can get some questions answered. But some of the takeaways that I picked from your sharing, rest is in. That one just like, rest is end. And for me, it wasn't just you have to work so hard to get it. It says that when God saw that it was good, then he rested. So we need to be able to, put in the work. And once we see that we have delivered, then you can rest. Also, my takeaways from Odamia's session was be open minded. Curiosity is a powerful tool. Be open minded and build substance. I watched that podcast where you spoke at, and it was very interesting that if you don't have substance and you put a camera light to your face, all you do is be giving out no substance. So build substance. And she has given you a practical example, reading books, taking courses that make her relevant. And I can tell you that with all the courses that Odamia has learned and picked up over the years, there is no space that she cannot contribute to. Because as a young person, she walks into rooms, she can contribute to conversations because she's well vested in those areas. So she gave you a practical example and cut out the excuses. If you have a goal, you cut out the excuses. One of the things is a personal pet peeve of mine is these excuses that you mentioned: power cuts, data. It doesn't mean that they are not real. They are all there, but then you have to know what you're trying to achieve. Okay, Odi is here, so I'll keep it. You have to know what you're trying to achieve, and so you cut out the excuses. I know I had a story of a young man somewhere in Africa who took a whole master's program from his cell phone. And that story blew, and I think MIT gave him an opportunity to further his education. So cut out the excuses, and then you can see from Odamia's story that the more she shares, the more she learns and the more she grows. So sharing is one of the powerful tools that you can use to learn. So here are a few of my takeaways from Odamia's lessons. And for CLP Central Leadership Program, I'm also excited to be a mentor on there. I've mentored in, I think this would be the third cohort. And yes, it's always exciting to give off, to the upcoming generation. And sometimes just one word is enough to help steer somebody on course. And I'll just encourage all of us on the call listening, and that if you're not mentoring in any way, please find yourself in a space where you are giving back to the younger generation. Sarah and I belong to an organization that has just launched a mentoring program. So, for example, Damia, what you do with your cohorts, instead of spending hours training or preparing people for mentorship, because the challenge is that they go into mentoring relationships not prepared. They don't have the goals, they don't have the mindset, they don't know what kind of questions to ask. So I'll share a link in the chat, which is powered by BCA Online. And so there's a course prepared by one of Thinkers 50 coaching legends, who has put together a fundamental course to learn how to even get mentored. So it's both for the mentee and the mentor. And once you're done with that, they have an AI powered platform where you can put your profile. It's completely free at no charge. You upload your profile and then you get matched with coaches, mentors from across the continent. So I'll share that it's BCA, the Mentorship Advantage. That's the name of the course. So for anybody running a mentoring program, you want something that can help your group get ready for mentoring, you can jump on board of that. So yes, please, I have some comments from for you, Adamia. They are more celebratory comments from the chat. So there's a lot of kudos to you. Her Ladyship, Cynthia Martison, said, so proud of you, Odamia. Kudos. Kudos, kudos. Alex is also joining us from Tema. We also have Entry Malik who says, yes, from Ghana, the most striking point of where you mentioned is that most young graduates lack basic knowledge about working. He's currently teaching in SHS and he can contest um okay, buying awaiting forms after what's okay, it's given us what is happening on the ground. And then Malik also says, from my background, I am really enjoying this evening sessions. It is resonating with him as a you'd say he's a teacher. I think yes, teaching in SHS. It's really hitting home for him. All right. So questions. Yes, there's also a question about where to get your book. So maybe you can start with that. How anybody can access your books. You've shared the links, but then just generally tell us where we can get your books.
Right, right. So, depending on where you are, can I be heard?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, from if you're in Accra, we actually currently are delivering to people that actually pre-ordered before the launch. So, what would happen is, we'll just you can either reach out to me on once you search me online on Google, you can have access to my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my any other social media platform, and I'll also put my link tree in the chat. It will lead you to my Telegram and other social media platforms where you can just reach out to me directly and then we can get it to you. So you can just reach out and then we'll get it delivered to you. It's also available online. We are still in the approval stage for Amazon. So people that are not in Africa, for instance, that are in other places who want to order from Amazon, it would be, I think we've been given about 14 days and we are in like the seventh day. So I have about a week left for it to be approved. And then we'll have it on Amazon as well. So you can just use the link tree. You have access to my social media pages and then we can get it
Okay.
delivered to you.
All right. So let me bring Sarah on stage. I know she has a lot of questions for you because I know this topic she's very passionate about the whole Gen Z space. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's very, very interesting and inspiring. And Joy was just saying, this is mini you, Sarah. So I just want to acknowledge you. And just like you, I just love learning. I love learning. I don't stop learning. So kudos that you're encouraging the younger generations to do so. I have a few questions for you. Um, I have Joy have already given the takeaway, so I'm not going to focus on that. So I just want to see, could you share with us a particular failure or setback that changed the way you now approach learning and career development? Just share with
Right,
us if there's
right,
been
right.
any, yeah, because I
Yeah.
think we can learn a
So
lot from that.
Yes, yes. So when I started law school, as someone with a science background, I did science in SHS. I went to do pharmacy, so I am not an art person. Even though in my heart, I know I'm a very artistic person. I like to write. I like to read. But when I started, I realized that I needed to just build myself in a way that I'd be able to fit into the law space, the legal space without having to struggle. So I started my first year, I quit all my jobs. I actually stopped working because I wanted to focus and have my foundations right. So I quit the jobs I was working there. And then I had actually saved enough to cater for myself to my second year. So I just stopped working, focused too much on my books. I had a couple of A's, and after that, second year, I was struggling to get into the workspace. So I almost deferred. I actually went for the form to defer for a year to go and look for a job and gather enough money so that I can come back to school. So that was a very tough time for me because when I was transitioning, I had a heart to heart conversation with my dad, and I told him that "Look, I'm not asking for him to pay fees again. I just want to take responsibility of my decision to go back to school. So I'm going to work and pay. So now I can't go back to my dad to say that I'm not finding a job and please come and help me to pay my fees. So it was around that time that I started doing, I remember I did some LinkedIn trainings where people paid, I think about 50 CDs or so. And at the end of it, I had trained about 250 people. And I was able to get so much to pay for my fees. And then after that, I had a few mentors who knew that I was in school. So sometimes I'll be there and then they will just send me some money that will just use this to pay for your books and all of that. So it's at that point, I just realized that it was God that was moving me into that space because I honestly didn't know how I was going to go through all of that without God's hand because I didn't know how that idea even came. And after that LinkedIn training, I did about 3 cohorts after that. So that was what birthed all the other trainings I've recently been doing. So it gave me the opportunity to understand that, oh, I can actually teach. Like I'm a good teacher because people that came through the training left and some of them are now training people, right? So I just realized that. So for me, that has been like the most recent failure that I encountered. But I was able to go through it because I knew what I was looking for. And I mean, God also knew what he was doing. So it made it easier for me to just move through without seeing it as struggle per se. Because when I read that, I paid my second year fees. I currently have finished school and I'm not doing anything. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm really also curious about the transition on, or maybe the career development for the young people. As Joy said, we are really looking at what we can do for the continent when it comes to the young people who will really be the over half of the population of the continent. So I'm really curious to see, for example, if somebody has to transition or about their career, what are maybe 3 key things that you can share with them to for them to take away today? Practical. I'm very practical
Okay.
like you, very education oriented.
Right. Right. So first thing is actually to have a very honest conversation with yourself.
Mhm.
Because if you know that you want to pivot, it means there's something wrong somewhere. So you need to have like a very honest conversation to find out why you actually want to move. Is it that you think the space you want to get into is now the age? Like now everybody is saying AI, data analytics. So it's like everybody wants to do AI and data analytics. So you need to first have a very honest conversation that, well, this I know that I'm not fitting into this space, but why am I not fitting? Is it that I have a capacity problem? Is it that I'm not developing myself well to fit into this space? Because I sometimes meet young people who, maybe when I tell my story about moving from pharmacy, they now start talking about the fact that hey, they too they feel the same in their space. Then when I ask them, what did you do? Because for me, even though I left pharmacy, everybody I worked under in pharmacy was actually disappointed that I was leaving because they felt like I was doing so well in pharmacy, so they didn't understand why I wanted to leave. So even if you are in the right coat, even if you are in the wrong space, you are in a
Mhm.
space that you feel is not good, do it well. So have that honest conversation. Is it a capacity problem? Is it that you are not pushing yourself so much to make the best out of that space? So that's the first thing. When you understand that, well, now Odamea knows pharmacy wouldn't work for her. You are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that this wouldn't work. The next thing is to try a lot of things. I am that person that does not really encourage people picking like one niche, especially when you are pivoting. Because what that does is that when you pick one and then you do not succeed at it, you now have to go back to the drawing board to try another thing. And that is a lot of time going to waste. So you can look at maybe 2 things or 3 things that you think you like. So for me, I entered into digital marketing because I used to manage social media accounts when I was in pharmacy school. So I was helping the pharmacy department to manage the social media. So I was like, okay, this is something that it looks like I like. So let me take courses in there to see if it would work. So I
Mm.
started doing something that was related to an area I was interested in. So you need to also know what you can do. And you would only know that when you do it. You wouldn't have clarity when you haven't moved. So that would be the second. The final part is to look for people that are maybe have pivoted, to learn from them. Because there's one thing that I always say, that career in our current age is not linear. You can just wake up one day and AI has taken the job that you are doing. You probably were the one that was entering data, and there's an AI tool now that you just take a picture of the sheets that people are creating, and then it will just pull out the information in an Excel, so clean. So if that is your career as a data entry person, you've lost your job. So what that means is that we are in a space where career isn't linear. It is not the one thing you think you want to do. You need to be um, not necessarily like a jack of 200 trades, but a jack of some trades, do them well, not in a space of being like a perfectionist, but from a place of delivering excellence and consistency. So
Yeah.
for me, there are times that I would talk about me writing books, me training people, me going to class. My first year, for instance, I was on a first class. My first year, I had 5 A's in both semesters and I think 2 B's each. So when it came, I was on the first class. Second year, I was still on the first class more. Third year, I started working, like I couldn't really learn as much. And that's what dropped my class. And I wasn't looking at perfection. If I was, I probably would have stopped working to focus on my books to get that first class. But I realized there were other aspects of Odamea's life that I had to also pay attention to be able to, achieve the level of excellence I want to see in my life. So the first, as I mentioned, is to have an honest conversation. The second is to try a few things, some things which you know you are interested in, to know what you can do better at. And the third is to find people who have actually pivoted to learn from.
Awesome, awesome. So very, very simply put, here we are. You have to sit down, have that honest conversation. If you don't, get a coach. CTL, we are here to help you have that
Yeah.
honest conversation. And then you look at your strengths. Build on the strengths. You don't build on your weaknesses. Build on your strengths. And once you build on your strength, get somebody to mentor you. And Joy has shared with us the mentorship advantage that BCA is powering. So there, uh, um, audience or listeners, you have something to execute because Odamia is done execute. She executes. Okay. So Joy, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your inputs. And so, very, very important. I think I would take your closing, or we call it the dessert on the cake, your pattern shots for anybody listening this evening.
Like,
Will
I'm
be
not hearing
your
you.
you're not hearing, you're not hearing, but I can hear you. Hi, Adamia. Okay, I'm sure it's some technical glitch somewhere. Okay, but we're bringing the conversation to an end. If you can share with us your final takeaways, what you're taking with you from what Adamia has shared as we wrap up the conversation. Yes, so let's share them in the comment section as we wrap up and then get Odamia back on to share her takeaways if she's able to come back on. Yeah. So we are moving from theory to execution. One very funny story that I heard was someone who was building their YouTube page, and I think for YouTube with the content monetization, you need to have gotten 1,000 followers. And this lady was passionately on YouTube begging people to follow the page just so that she could clock the followers and start earning. And just like Odamia is saying, we get to places where we think people are just monetizing on the internet and people are quitting their entire purpose just to create content because content would fetch you money. And sometimes the kind of captions we even put on the videos just so that people can watch and click, and you click and you realize that there's actually nothing in there. So it's a very dicey space. Let's follow our god-given passion. Let's execute on what God has put in our hands to do. If it's a career, build your career to perfection, to a level where you cannot be ignored. And I believe that the words that Odamea has shared, her link tree is on the comments, and I hope that you'll be able to contact her through all the links that she shared. I believe she's having a few challenges, so we'll end it for now. But I want to say a big thank you to her on behalf of the team, and we hope to have you back and another session to come and speak to some more youth. We have a lot of programs up our sleeve at CTO, and I think we would be glad to have you back again. All right, so this has been another episode of the Leadership Platform, navigating competence crisis and managing modern Gen Zs. I hope you've learned something. I hope you're taking something away with you. And on that note, on behalf of the team, I want to say thank you. Have a good night and see you again next week, same time, 7 p.m. on Saturday for another episode. All right, good night, everyone.